Welcome to the shores of Lake Oneida. In Sylvan Beach, New York, we're going to be looking today at Sylvan Beach Amusement Park, which was founded in the 1870s by the Spencer family and is still thriving. Like so many parks, it was struggling during the pandemic of 2020, but it's bouncing back. We were there early in the morning, and so it was pretty quiet, but by the time we left, the place was getting really crowded, so it's still very popular. The park is frozen in the 1950s. It's a wonderful retro place, and it sits at one end of the Sylvan Beach community. There are no gates blocking it off. You can just walk right through it, even when the park isn't running. And there are a lot of classic rides here. You can see a tilt-a-whirl over on the side. And there are some really rare rides here, and most of them are beautifully preserved. It looks like they were just purchased, even though the rides are about 70 years old. So they take very good care of their equipment. In front of us now is the famous Irely rolloplane, which they call the Bomber, and it's in remarkable condition. And notice the bumper car arena over there. There's a Himalaya. So you have the standard rides that you'd find at a normal amusement park of this era or at a carnival. And there's a scrambler. This is sort of the main Midway, but you can wander around any of the areas in the park. You can see they have a lot of standard carnival games there. This little building on the right is the ticket booth, and you can purchase individual tickets for rides. The rides took anywhere from 2 to 4 tickets, and each ticket was $1.75. Or you can get a wristband and ride to your heart's content. In front of us on the left is Kahuna's, the park's big eatery. Down this little alleyway you can see the park's brightly colored Galaxy coaster, the Carousel, and off to the left is the entrance to the Rotor. And over on the right, which you can't get to from this way, but we'll see another alleyway to get to it, is an Irely Rockoplane, which is a pretty rare ride these days, again in marvelous condition. Now this big red building here is actually a separate concession from Sylvan Beach Amusement Park. This is Carello's Carousel and Arcade. As you can see, there are lots of arcade machines hiding this big carousel back here. The building itself, the whole operation, dates to 1896. The carousel dates to the 1890s. It originally had wood horses, but in the 1980s they were replaced by these aluminum horses from the Thiel Company. They look sort of now like Parker animals, C.W. Parker carousel animals. But that carousel goes really fast. It's pretty intense. Over here on the left we have a little ice cream shack, and then here's the little alleyway that you would take to get to the Rockoplane. And next to the Rockoplane is a set of bumper boats. And you can see the parking lot in front of us and Lake Oneida in the distance. Now you notice how crowded that parking lot is. That's because the day we were there, Sylvan Beach, the town, was having a Corvette convention with hundreds of Corvettes throughout the whole area, all along the parking lot, along the beachfront, along the green, and it was mobbed. They also had a craft fair going on at the same time, and it was a really refreshing scene to see so much life in this little area. And there are a lot of good restaurants in the town. There are some really nice ice cream shops. So there's a lot to do in Sylvan Beach. There's also Rome, New York nearby. That is a really nice community as well. Over on the left you can see the really retro Playland Arcade. The grassy area that we're walking on now has traditionally been a mini golf course. They took all the stunts and the pieces away for the mini golf because of COVID. Hasn't come back yet, but I'm sure it will in the future. And here was the reason I came to Sylvan Beach, Laughland. And I have a separate video linked in the description of this ride. This is one of the last pretzel dark rides left, and it is wonderful. Pretzel dark rides, if you don't know, have really sharp turns, 180-degree sudden turns in the dark, and lots of fun little stunts. There's nothing really scary in there. Little cartoons of owls and devils and witches, but just a great dark ride. I went on it, I think, 6 or 7 times. So we're walking through the grassy area that used to house a mini golf course, heading toward a sort of separate stretch of the Midway. And there's Corello's Carousel in front of us. There's the gift shop over there, and the games, the shooting gallery. And over here is a remarkable collection of mint condition kiddie rides, most of them by the Herschel Corporation from the 1950s. And notice there's a separate ticket booth. That wasn't open the day we were there. But you could get tickets here or at the ticket booth down a ways on the Midway that we saw. But you have a typical boat ride here. These aren't Herschel. But the flying jets are Herschel. And those are identical to the ones that were at Mountain Park, my old park. There is a Samson kiddie Ferris wheel, which is very rare, identical to the one that was at Mountain Park. There's a set of Herschel auto cars that are identical to the ones that were at Mountain Park. And over here is a Herschel turtle ride, identical to the one at Mountain Park. The turtle ride was sort of a mini version of Traver's Great Tumblebug. And here's a little miniature kiddie bubble bounce. And then over here, another Herschel ride, a pony cart ride that is identical to the one that was at Mountain Park. Even the scenery and the canvas is the same as it was at Mountain Park. That really warmed the cockles of my heart to see that. So there's that little mini kiddie land. There's also one other Herschel ride that we're going to see in a minute down the other end of the park. So we'll hang a left over here. And again, we have some skee ball, another big arcade, and some more games. And again, a lot of these vintage 1950s games. Treasureland was closed. Again, probably staffing problems because of the pandemic. I don't know what this ride was, but this was being repaired while we were there, so I assume they'll get that back in shape pretty soon. You see the Tilt-A-Whirl in front of us. That's where we came in. And over here is a kiddie whip, a Herschel kiddie whip, identical to the one that was at Mountain Park. And there's the bumper cars that we saw earlier. There's a Tip Top, which is essentially a bubble bounce. And there's the Himalaya. And with that, we basically come to the end of the Midway. Let's take a look inside the bumper car arena here. It's pretty big. I laughed when I saw that little 2-tire island in the middle. I'm used to seeing a much bigger island in the center to direct traffic. This way here, it's more like an obstacle because the cars can essentially go anywhere they want except for those 2 tires. And right there is a teacup ride. So that pretty much covers all the rides in the park. At the other end of the park, the north end, where the Midway ends, there is a huge white building with a big lighthouse called the Lake House, and that's a casino and a restaurant. And there's another big restaurant right here. So there are lots of food options in this area. There are lots of entertainment options in the area, and the community seems really busy. So, like I said, you had the car show and a craft fair, a big one, all going on at the same time, and the place was packed. It was hard to find a parking place. So, if you're looking for something to do in the central New York area and you just want a relaxing retro time, I can't recommend highly enough Sylvan Beach. I found it worth the money just to come to ride Laughland. It brought back a lot of good memories.